All right, welcome back, folks. Another Bleacher Report Live. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. You can follow me on all social media at JK Bogan, including on the Bleacher Report app at JK Bogan. I do have a account there. You can follow it and never miss a video. But first off, special thanks for Bleacher Report having me as always. The second special thanks for the Rams winning 4 of the last 5 games and making it easier to talk about this football team. Look, everyone loves when a team starts winning football games. Everyone loves when their team starts winning in general. And that's something the Rams have been doing. It's been impressive just to see them go 4-1 right off the bye after starting 3-6. It's been absolutely huge. I think when you look at this team right now, being a 51% odds favorite to make the playoffs, and ESPN Analytics, I believe it was, or there was one analytics site that had the Rams more favored to be a 6th seed than a 7th. So that's kind of funny. It's really come to that. The Rams are, basically they're in the driver's seat. They control their own destiny. They went out, they're in. They win the next 2 games and have a little bit of help, and they are in. So here is the scenario right now. First off, as you can see, it's 51%. We go here, give the Rams a win. This is New York Times, of course, their model, their analytical model here. But this does give the Rams a win over the Saints. Helps the Rams a bit, up to 73%. They're 8-7 at that point. Tonight's game is actually pretty decently big. Seattle still needs to lose a game for them to have a chance to clinch week 17 without the 49er game mattering. So if you look at this, you see the Eagles and Seahawks here. If the Eagles do win, they win this game. Now that is checked off. That's checked off the box. Seattle lost their game. The Rams are in the driver's seat here with a win against the Giants week 17 and a Vikings loss to the Lions. So you'll see here, this is week 16. I have the Rams taking down the Saints on Thursday night. This game actually doesn't matter, believe it or not, because the Packers lost to the Bucs and they lost to the Giants. The Vikings losing to the Bengals now makes it so basically the Vikings, who are sitting here at 7-7, if they lose to the Lions, their ceiling is 9-8. The Rams' ceiling would be 10-7. All they need is one spot to make the playoffs. The Packers right now are 6-8. So if they win this game or lose it, their ceiling is still 9-8. One of these two teams is not going to finish 9-8 because that ceiling isn't possible because they both play each other. So that is the fascinating thing about this. So if you look over here, Seahawks already lost this game in our, quick scenario here with the Eagles. Now things could get interesting if Seattle wins this, but let's say the Eagles, the reigning NFC champion, Jalen Hurts and company, they take care of business tonight. Then that means the Lions beating the Vikings puts the Rams at an 81% chance of making the playoffs. If all of this happens, we'll just give the Packers a win. It doesn't really affect it too much. Just like this Bears thing, you put the Bears ahead of the Cardinals because all that matters is that the Lions took care of business against the Vikings and Seattle lost to the Eagles. Seattle's best record can be 9-8 now. That's their ceiling. Well, if the Rams take care of business against the Saints, their best record is 10-7. If the Rams, win against the Giants here, that's where this whole thing gets thrown out the window. Seattle already has, they have their 8 losses there. So since they'd be 6-8 going into week 16, they can beat the Titans here, and it does not matter. This is the playoff clinching scenario for the Rams. All they need is tonight, Seattle loses to the Eagles, the Lions beat the Vikings on Sunday, and the Rams win the next 2 games. And there you go. At MetLife Stadium, the Rams can clinch a playoff berth and literally go from 5-12 in a disaster season after winning the Super Bowl to going back to the playoffs where Matthew Stafford, you just never know. So that's the beauty of it. We look now at the playoff picture here. This is according to CBS. And you see right now, first round bye, the 49ers have that 11-3. The Ravens have the first round bye in the AFC at 11-3. But sticking with the NFC here, the Rams would play the Philadelphia Eagles, who right now the Rams already have familiarity with. The Rams didn't really use Kyren Williams much in that game, so the Eagles would have to prepare for something they didn't see a ton of the last time they went up against each other. And right now, Philly just doesn't look that great. They brought in, and this could be a bad thing for the Rams, of course, if Seattle wins tonight, but they brought in Matt Patricia as the defensive coordinator, who was a consultant, and they made a defensive coordinator switch in week 15. This team has been trending downward, and I don't know what led to it, but I do think playing, 3 games in 12 days has really hurt them. Losing to the Niners the way they did, losing to Dallas. They need a get right game against Seattle tonight. So, hopefully for them, they get that. The point being is that the Rams aren't even likely to be here if they take care of business. They're likely not going to get the 7th seed. It's likely going to be the 6th seed. And they're likely going to play the Lions. If they play the Eagles, folks, I think they win. I don't like the way the Eagles are playing football right now. And I don't think they look like a juggernaut. And I think the way the Eagles beat the Rams, at SoFi, hemorrhaging the clock and taking long possessions downfield, that's still possible. Eagles can still play that level of football. But the Rams can do that right back to them. Because Kyren Williams now has gotten better since then. That was week 5. Kyren Williams had started about 3 games, week 5. And now he's played 10 games. He started 9 of them. He's played in 10 games. He is averaging more rushing yards per game than anybody in the NFL. In 10 games, he has 953 rushing yards. So Kyren Williams, who's, by the way, leading the league in yards after contact per attempt, Kyren Williams against what is a good run defense can succeed. But make no mistake about it, the most important piece to the puzzle is the quarterback. And if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything. Well, luckily for the Rams, Matthew Stafford is playing on just a different level right now. There's an absolute different level. It's very crazy when you think about it. He has just been on a mission. Now, it's not just that Stafford has 12 touchdowns and 3 interceptions since the bye. It's not just that Matthew Stafford has been arguably the best quarterback over the last 4 games and since he got healthy. It's also the fact, and you need to think about this, they have a short week against the Saints, back where it all started last year. Not literally in location because they were in New Orleans, but the Rams played the Saints last year, and that's when everything went crazy. It's when Stafford got hurt. It's when basically that was the end of their season. They were playing them well. They were winning the game. They knocked Stafford out, and the Rams end up losing to the Saints in a close one. So in this game, they have a chance to win the game, go 8-7. Depending on how those 2 games go that I mentioned, they have a chance to clinch next week. And yes, they have to travel cross country. They have to play on New Year's Eve, literally across the country at MetLife Stadium. But I've been at those MetLife Stadium games. And for whatever reason, Sean McVay has this team always prepared. Whatever Rams team he has, they're always prepared when they go to New Jersey. When they go to MetLife, whether it's the Jets or the Giants, beating the Giants 51-17, putting up plenty of points on the board last time they played in the Super Bowl season. This team hasn't let up on the road at MetLife. So I feel good about it. The point I'm making here, what isn't talked about, is that the Rams playing on Thursday night, their home season finale. They will not play another game the rest of the year at SoFi Stadium. The most important aspect of that is that they have the Saints. They take care of business. They get the head-to-head tiebreaker, but more importantly, they get a bye. They get a mini bye this late in the season. They get a mini bye before they take on the Giants, and then they play in Santa Clara. And you could say, okay, well, back-to-back road games, that's tough. But at the same time, it's like, is it tough the way the schedule, kind of punishes them in a sense? Sure. And they've had, playing 4 teams off a bye. But to get a mini bye going into week 17, that's huge because you already saw what this team did with a bye. And when you're playing this late in the season, this could be the determining factor of how these guys even stay healthy. Maybe a mini bye is all it takes to avoid a big issue down the road. Maybe someone's overworked. Maybe now this is huge. So I'm not overlooking it. But again, going back to the Eagles, I think the Rams match up well against the Eagles, and seeing them a second time, I know it would be in Philly. This Rams team, it doesn't matter who they play and where they play. I think they can beat anybody. Currently, they're a top 10 offense. Over the last 4 games, they're a top 3 offense. And the defense is 9th in success rate. So I look at this team and I'm like, this team might say 7-7. This team might be a team that has a losing road record. But the Rams that we've seen the past 4 to 5 weeks is a Rams team that is one of the best 5 teams in football right now. And a good example of a team that's one of the best teams in football right now and isn't even playoffs right now, if the season ended today, the Bills. Well, you have to make adjustments when things aren't working. The Bills fired their offensive coordinator and promoted Joe Brady. Since they've been running the football more with James Cook, and the offense made some adjustments, and now they're winning football games and they're blowing out the Cowboys. The Rams made adjustments. They also got Kyren Williams back, who, by the way, with Kyren Williams, they are a way better football team. They're 1-3 without him. So being 6-4 with him is huge. This team is 6-1 when they scored more than 24 points a game. It's very telling. So I think they match up well against the Eagles. The 49ers, that'd be a tough one. The 49ers are one of the best teams in football, if not the best right now. They did play the Ravens, though, in Baltimore, very tough, who would probably be my pick in the AFC currently. They are the number 1 seed. So I think they can beat the Eagles. And then the Lions, let's say they get the 6th seed, the Lions get the 3. Why can't they beat the Lions? Do you really think Matthew Stafford is going to allow Jared Goff to be the first quarterback in 30 years to bring the Lions a playoff win? Do you really think that? Do you think for a second, after hearing all of that about how Stafford couldn't win in Detroit, do you think he's going to lose in Detroit? Do you think this team came all the way back from 3-6 to go 7-7? Do you think Stafford, who has an over 110 passer rating since the bye week and the first half of the season, he struggled a little bit? Do you think he turned it around on that level to lose to the Lions? Guys, the Rams on the road are more dangerous than they are at home. There's no comfortability, and they're used to that. So I think the Lions defense, which is susceptible to giving up the pass, and they wouldn't be able to stop Kyren Williams. And then you look at the offense, which it's a good offense. It's got a good a good pass protection there for Goff. But Jared Goff has lost them games. The pick 6 to Seattle, the multiple fumbles in the Packers game, almost gave away the Bears game. They had to have some crazy comeback because of the interceptions. Jared Goff would not fare well against a defensive coordinator that already saw him back in the Super Bowl season. Against Sean McVay, who knows everything about him, Goff hasn't changed his game much since he was a Ram. Just a change of scenery, a better offensive line the last time that he had one. And he has weapons, but are they any better than having Todd Gurley and Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods? No. So the Lions running game, the Lions passing game, very good, but it's not anything the Rams haven't seen. They've gone up against the Ravens. They've gone up against the 49ers. That's the thing. So I think that's an important thing to put out there. I think they'd be absolutely fine against the Lions. I think they match up extremely well against them. I don't think Lions fans want to see that matchup as much as Rams fans do. I think they'd beat the Eagles, the Lions. If by any means that they somehow played the Bucks, I think they'd beat the Bucks. If they played the Cowboys, that would be tough. I think the Cowboys in Dallas, they're undefeated. They're the only undefeated home team in the league, but on the road, which they wouldn't really do. So they're either going to play Dallas again at home or not. But the point is, Dallas on the road is not very good. We've seen that. Then at that point, those are really the only teams that they have a chance of playing. So in the first round, playing the Eagles or Lions, I think the Rams are in the driver's seat for a big upset. But let's talk about what Stafford's capable of. Because we talked about how the Rams can get in, their quickest way of, getting that tiebreaker or getting the playoff clinching scenario. That's the quickest way. But what we didn't talk about is what Matthew Stafford brings to the table. Besides the fact he won the Super Bowl with the Rams immediately the first time he got there. Matthew Stafford is 4-0 in the playoffs as a Rams quarterback, 70% completion percentage, 1,188 yards, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a 108.3 passer rating. He has 11 big time throws, which led all quarterbacks in the 2021 to 2022 playoffs. 3 game winning drives, 2 fourth quarter comebacks, and a 65.6% success rate. Oh, by the way, he won the Super Bowl. So Matthew Stafford with Sean McVay, guys who've had the experience, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, you could say this team has a bunch of they're the island of misfit toys. A lot of people said it before the season started. I always had this team at 10-7, and I said it right on here. Said they'd go to the divisional round of the playoffs. Didn't necessarily say they'd win. I had them losing to the Lions, who I thought they'd be better than what they are right now. But yeah, I've always had them going to the playoffs, getting to the divisional round, going 10-7, which they still can do. They can win the next 3. But the point is, the mainstream and all the talking heads basically wrote this team off. They said it's Aaron Donald and 10 other guys in the defense. They said Matthew Stafford, who had a spinal cord contusion at age 35, might never play again. We don't know if he'll ever play again. Now, I heard that so many times. Even when Stafford said, I'm good to go. Even when Sean McVay said, I expect him to play. Even when Kelly basically said he's not retiring. It was just constant, well, we don't even know if Stafford can play football ever again. Here's the thing. Did the Rams season go as planned? Absolutely not. Was it planned for them to go 3-6 going into the bye? No. Was it planned for them to have Kyron Williams take over as the lead back and have Cam Akers want out? No. Was it planned for Puka Nacua, a 5th round rookie wide receiver, to be up there to potentially break the rookie record? No. Was the plan, right? Was the plan for all of these defensive rookies to play the way they're playing? Maybe. The point is, things change. I mean, just think about this. How important was Kevin Dotson for this offensive line? PFF has graded him like the number 1 offensive line in football. He was a Ram right before the season. They traded for him. When they were finalizing their 53, they traded for Kevin Dotson right before the season. If they don't make that trade, where are they right now? They don't have more wins. Do they have more losses? Are they the same? Who knows? It's just a reminder, you don't know how the season's going to go. Cooper Kupp in July, maybe even early August before he got hurt, there's no way he could have foreseen, I'm going to miss the first 4 games of the season. Kyron Williams, when he was going off at the beginning of the year, there's no way anyone could have seen him. I mean, you couldn't even see him because he finished the game against Arizona. You didn't know he was going to miss 4 straight games. They were going to go 1-3 the rest of the way. You didn't know that. You didn't know that Stetson Bennett, who was drafted to be a career backup, a franchise backup for the team, was just going to be placed on injured, the non-football injury and illness list. You didn't know Brett Rippon was going to start a football game. It's just the way things are. That's the way things have been. And the Rams just continue to fight, scratch and claw. But it's not just scratching and clawing. because that would signify almost that they don't belong. They're doing whatever they can to survive. This team, when they play now, the current Rams are one of the best teams in football. And they make it look like, yeah, they could do a lot better. But then at the end of the game, you're sitting there, they scored 28 and you're complaining they didn't score 40. Not bad. Not too shabby. So that's an important thing here. I just think when you look at this team, you look at the playoffs and everything. First off, this team's making the playoffs. I understand this game scares people, the Saints and Rams game. I get it. It's a short week. The Saints won last year when they had their matchup, although they lost basically when Stafford was playing. When they knocked Stafford out, they won. But I mean, it's funny. I heard Colin Cowherd on the Herd say, if the Rams played the Saints, they'd beat them like a drum. Well, Colin, they do play the Saints. They play them on Thursday. Really big game for the Rams, the biggest of the year in my mind. It's the most dangerous game because I'll show you here why it is how it is. So if you go, and regardless of this Eagles and Seahawks outcome, Rams lose to the Saints, this thing can go down to single digits. It's at 11%. Rams beat the Giants. Rams beat the 49ers. That puts them at a max of 78% without having any sort of other games going in the way. Now, if the Rams beat the Saints but lose to the Giants, they have a 95% chance of making the playoffs. If they beat the Giants but lose to the 49ers, 95% chance. So this Saints game is the most pivotal right now, the rest of the way. And it does drop significantly. Here's why. The Saints would have the conference tiebreaker, but they'd also have the head-to-head tiebreaker. The Saints would take over the 7th seed. They would be a problem. Actually, I believe the Packers would take over the 7th seed if they won because they beat the Saints. But the point is, the Saints can be a thorn in the Rams' side. They're the only things that can really get in the way. If the Rams take care of business here, win these two games, I mean, you see it. 95% chance they win out, they're in. They lose, now you need some help, but 95, 94%, that's good. But this game right here, they need to win this game. The Saints have not been good against the run. I think this is a great opportunity for Kyren Williams to get rolling. I mean, he just had another 150-yard game. He had his 5th of 100 games or 10 games this year. Half of them have been over 100 yards. I think Kyren is going to be so crucial. Rams fans, if you're in LA, show up for this game. Go to this game. This is the biggest game of the year. This is so important. If they get this win, I trust the way, first off, mini bye. Second, I trust the way they're going to respond to finish the season, the last 2 games being on the road. I think they win them both. But they got to beat the Saints. Derek Carr, veteran quarterback. He's playing a playoff game before. I mean, that's why the Saints got him to be in this position. They need that win just as much as the Rams do. So really, really interesting stuff there. But the title of this video, this live stream, was what does a Rams playoff team look like this year, essentially? Well, here's what I think it looks like. I think it's a top 10 offense, potentially top 3. You got a Super Bowl winning head coach. Find me in the NFL playoffs right now. Who has won a Super Bowl in the NFL playoffs? Harbaugh won. Kyle Shanahan, no. Sean McVay, no. Mike McDaniel, no. Steve Steichen. I'm totally blanking on his first name. Andy Reid, no. Zach Taylor, but did go to a Super Bowl. No Stefanski, Doug Peterson. Now you have on this side, no Sirianni, no Campbell, no to Kevin O'Connell, Mike McCarthy, and Bowles. Bowles was not the head coach when they won the Super Bowl. So, head coach that have won the Super Bowl, you have Sean McVay, and you have Mike McCarthy in the NFC. In the AFC, you have Harbaugh, you have Reid, and you have Doug Peterson. That's really fascinating. How about quarterbacks in the NFC that have won a Super Bowl? Do you know? Because the only guys that have won a Super Bowl in the NFC, I think actually the Bucks might have. I think Trask might have a suit. I don't think so actually. In the NFC, it's been Matthew Stafford and Carson Wentz, both on the Rams. I don't believe anyone here has won a Super Bowl, and I could be wrong. Maybe a backup has, but I believe it's just those two. In the AFC, you would have Mahomes. You would have Flacco on the Browns. That's fascinating. You would have, that's it. So Mahomes and Flacco, Stafford and Wentz. So there you go. Really interesting stuff there. Kind of goes to show you there's definitely something there. So look, what does a Rams playoff team look like? Top 3 offense? I'd say so right now. And a defense that they have some serious pieces. They're playing better as of late. I do think putting in guys in garbage time, kind of cover up how well they played against the Commanders. I think obviously they need better play out of Darion Kendrick. He is kind of the weak link right now, but this Rams defense, Raheem Morris has familiarity of what it's like to win in the playoffs. And the Rams didn't give up a ton of points in the playoffs either with Raheem Morris's defense. So are you placing all your bets on Matthew Stafford? Why not? Stafford is one of only 3 quarterbacks to have 11 big time throws, which is the most since 2013. The other 2, Tom Brady in 2020 with the Bucks, and Andrew Luck, excuse me, with 11. He also had that with the Colts. So Stafford, what he did in the 2021 to 2022 playoffs, that run just doesn't get talked about enough. That was a phenomenal playoff run. If he doesn't throw those interceptions in the Super Bowl, neither were really on him. One, you're going up and you're giving, Van Jefferson a shot. He doesn't go up and get it. That's the first one. The second one, Ben Skoranek pushed it up to everybody, he threw it right to him and Skoranek lifted it up in the air and it got picked off. No, I mean, Stafford was incredible in that playoff run. Absolutely incredible. And there's a reason why the Rams did not win the Super Bowl with Jared Goff. And then instantly when they got Matthew Stafford, they went 4-0. Can they do it again? I think they can. Now, I'm not saying the Rams are winning the Super Bowl. That's not what I'm saying. But why can't they? Think about it. They have a top 3 offense right now over the last 4 games. They're getting hot at the right time. They got one of the best running backs in football. Maybe I'd say the second best behind only Christian McCaffrey. They have elite weapons, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp. Offensive line is playing better. Then you have a defense that has Aaron Donald on it. Kobe Turner's playing good football. Byron Young. You got Ernest Jones, who's the best blitzing linebacker in football. You got Akella Witherspoon playing like a lockdown, shutdown number 1 corner. I mean, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be perfect. But Rams get that 6th seed. They beat the Lions. They'd have the 49ers in the divisional round. They'd have a chance to play spoiler. I mean, if you look at it, say they get the 6th seed here, and we'll say Vikings, Packers, Saints, whoever is here. Rams play the Lions. They beat the Lions. 49ers will get the lowest seed. I don't think whoever's here is going to beat the Eagles necessarily. I don't think the Packers would beat the Eagles. I think the reason I like the Rams over the Eagles is because the veteran experience at quarterback. Nick Mullins of the Vikings, not beating the Eagles. Okay. Jordan Love could give them a run, but the Packers haven't been able to finish games, right? I think the Buccaneers locked this up, so this could also be Desmond Ridder if the Falcons sneak in at the 7th seed. I don't think Ridder beats the Eagles on the road. I think Stafford does, though. So, bottom line is, Rams beat the Eagles or Lions. The Rams are getting the 49ers in the playoffs in the divisional round. And whether, the Eagles or like whoever's the remaining high seed would play the Buccaneers or the Cowboys, which, by the way, I don't like the Cowboys on the road. So I could see the Buccaneers upsetting the Cowboys, and which wouldn't really be an upset if you look at how the Cowboys play on the road. They played one of the easiest schedules, and they're 3-4 on the road. So interesting stuff there. Buccaneers win. Baker Mayfield's been playing great football. They win that game. Now all of a sudden you're looking Rams, 49ers against the Lions. Let's just say the Eagles advance. It'd be the Eagles, Buccaneers in a rematch. They played week 3 in that Monday Night Football doubleheader. That was going on during the Rams and Bengals game. If the Rams did it and they took down the 49ers in the divisional round, they would either play the Eagles or the Buccaneers in this scenario to go to the Super Bowl. If you don't think that the Rams, if they beat the 49ers, which, by the way, they can beat the 49ers, that would be their third time meeting them. If you don't think that they can't beat the 49ers and then beat the Eagles or the Buccaneers after beating the Lions, I think it's okay. I understand. It's hard to believe. Maybe this was sold as a retooling season. This was sold as a tank for Caleb Williams season by a lot of people. It never was. I tried to say that was never in the cards. The Rams can absolutely go to Super Bowl 58. They absolutely can do it. I'm not saying they're going to, but they can absolutely do it. I'm not ruling it out. But I'm just saying, don't let Matthew Stafford get hot. Don't let him get to the playoffs. He already is hot, by the way. So don't let him get to the playoffs, because if he gets in the playoffs, they are going to play spoiler. They're going to be dangerous. It's the same thing with Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills. It's the same thing. These are the two hottest teams in football right now. The Bengals are intriguing, but again, when push comes to shove, as great as Jake Browning has played in relief for Joe Burrow, not having Joe Burrow will doom them. They might be able to steal a playoff game against a Chiefs team that honestly just doesn't feel as good as years past. The Browns, I could see them with Joe Flacco upsetting the Jaguars. Then you look at the Colts, Dolphins. I'd probably pick the Dolphins. Then you got the Ravens. The Ravens would play whoever. But the team that's not in that picture right now are the Bills, who are also 8-6, who I don't see losing another game this year. I think the Rams and Bills surged at the right time. Be a fun Super Bowl. Can you imagine that? That was the Super Bowl I picked last year before everything went off the rails. Von Miller got hurt, season-ending injury. Bills just started having all sorts of injuries. The Rams had injuries from the get-go. Didn't work out. Would be fascinating if that was the Super Bowl after all that a year later, when no one expected the Rams to get there. And this was the year where everyone's kind of like, this is it for the Bills if they don't make it. So I don't know, just something interesting. Always fun to, talk a little bit about it. 3 more games, folks. Just 3 more games. We're going to know more. We're going to know more as soon as the Thursday night game's over, which, by the way, speaking of which, you can take it right here on the Bleacher Report app. And we are going to be going live after the Saints and Rams game. So rapid reaction there. As always, you could check out my YouTube channel as well, Jake Ellenbogen. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Always special thanks to Bleacher Report. Special thanks there and all the love there. Appreciate y'all. And of course, you can follow me on all social media at JK Bogan if you like what you just heard. Or even if you didn't, you want to get at me about my takes. Totally fine. But that's going to do it. Appreciate you guys. Again, I think the Rams are going to the playoffs. It's a matter of how far in the playoffs they go and less about whether they make it or not. But of course, these next 2 games are so crucial. The game tonight's crucial. So if you're a Rams fan, root for the Eagles, but that's going to do it. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. I'll see you guys soon. Later, folks.